with bootleg merchandise in general, you usually get what you pay for. You pay $20 for it, you got a poster for a week. You got a keychain for a day. When you buy quality merchandise, it's made for a collector's market. It's made for us. It's made for people that want to have a mocha in a backpack for the rest of their life. I have a authentic Jigglypuff backpack that I got in trouble at the airport in North Carolina for, but you know what? I know it's authentic. I saw all the tags on it, and for that reason, I won't throw it away. I'll find some other person that loves Jigglypuff, and I'll give it to them eventually. Although I'll have a hard time parting with my ridiculous backpack. Because on an adult, it looks like she's being kidnapped and taken at hostage. She's like she's stretched across a human back. She's like, she looks very scared. It's the scaredest Jigglypuff has ever looked. But the biggest reason that I am, and when I first started doing this panel, even though my friends are anime vendors, and even though I'm around vendors all the time, I didn't even think about this as an issue other than the fact that, you know, I fight piracy because it's killing the anime industry. I'm very passionate about that. I think the reason that I've become so undone with piracy on a merchandise level is the people that sell merchandise to you that are bootleg do not care about you at all. It's almost like comparing them to the tobacco companies, which I can say now. I don't smoke anymore, but they are not there because they love anime. They're not. They're there to make a really fast buck off of you. If they weren't, they'd be a vendor like Rosemary and Keith or like Valerie, and they'd be selling legitimate merchandise. There are, and especially since the anime boom that happened in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003, maybe, well, 2001 even, it drew out a lot of people because when you hear about Otacon's numbers of 30,000 people, or, you know, Anime Expo that has gotten to be the size of a city, you know, it's like, you know, 40, 50,000 people every year, 60, you know, I mean, numbers for conventions are outrageous. And with that draws out people that are just coming out to make money off of you guys. I never thought, I'm the guy that gets in trouble all the time. I never thought I'd be the guy whining about copyright law and all of that, but working as an insider in this industry, I have seen piracy and bootleg stuff ruin this industry. We recorded, and this is something that I can say from an insider's perspective, we recorded a full soundtrack for Beck, for the American language version of Beck. It is a like 22-track CD, complete with dialogue in between the songs, and a lot of time and a lot of love was put into the CD. We could never release that. The rights to it would be so expensive, one, because Beat Crusaders were kind of unknown when that was first created, and Beat Crusaders are kind of like a huge deal now. But soundtracks have proven in the American market absolutely non-profitable. Because some schmuck gets it, and I'm not going to even pardon my language there, gets it and throws it on a BitTorrent site. And instantly millions of people have access to a soundtrack, and then the people that spent all the time to build that soundtrack and make that soundtrack now are stuck holding the bill for it. And let's face it, if it's not profitable, people are not going to do it. In this last 3 months, 3 studios in Japan filed for bankruptcy. And that made Anime News Network headlines every single time it happened. And it was really creepy because it happened over a series of like 4 days. It was like boom, boom, boom. And like Stephanie Shea and I were making sure to put the links to the stories up. For people that don't think that all of this is affecting our industry, Japanese people are even starting to speak up on this. And for a Japanese creator to speak out on this very subject absolutely goes against the nature of their culture even. Shinichi Watanabe, and this Nabashin, who, have any of you had the chance to meet Nabashin or see Nabashin? He's a pretty ridiculously wild guy. If you've ever seen Nabashin in Excel Saga, that is really what he looks like. He really does have that afro, and he's really all the time. And I was doing this panel in Houston, and Nabashin wanted to come watch. And I was like, oh my God, would you love to participate in this? Because as an anime fan, I've never heard the Japanese side of this. I've never heard what the Japanese thought. I shouldn't say never, because when I first started this, it was because of a mistake I made in front of a Japanese guest. I mentioned someone had read their work online, and that's where it all kind of clicked for me. Like, that's when I suddenly realized what was happening. It's at least when I started to get vocal. I had watched my friends who were not buying things anymore. But Nabashin took part in this this panel, and he said very simply, he said, he said this in the interview. He said, I recently had to quit smoking because I was either going to smoke or put diapers on my baby. And that's pretty much the life of an artist in general. By living as an artist, especially in Japan, like manga creators and producers that work on shows, they make very little money. Nothing like people that make American cartoons, which are awful. But there's no residual. There's not the residual rights. There's not multi-paychecks. It's a very, very small industry. It is a niche industry. So now that we hear the creator of Black Butler, oh my gosh, she rules as far as I'm concerned, because she just got out on the internet and said, I love, and the broken English was what made it charming, but I completely understood. She said, this is not LOL, which is awesome. She said, this is how I make a living. And here's the really sad thing. The minute she did that, what happened?
Like 5 other
fans crucified her on the internet. And luckily, word had gotten to Japan that this is the fans, not just in the States, but in Japan's reaction as well. And a group of mangaka got together and publicly discussed what they would like to see happen to the people that make their work available online. And the creator of Hellsing was especially sadistic and totally gross about what he wished happened to them, and so much so that I will not repeat it for you. And all of this is online now. But if this wasn't affecting everyone, people wouldn't be speaking out. I hope that I've given you a little bit of information that at least lets you shop a little more consciously. You have wonderful people in the vendor's room that are here because they love anime, they love anime fans, and I would rather make their businesses profitable because they're buying from sources that then send money back to Japan, which then makes more toys and more anime and stuff like that. It's such a weirdly symbiotic relationship between the American anime industry and the actual industry in Japan. In fact, there really is only one industry, because the licensing sold in the States many times helps finish a project. Samurai 7 would have never been completed in Japan had it not been sold to Funimation. That is an outrageously expensive anime to produce. It was, I think, $150,000 an episode. So times 26, and marketing, and packaging, and
that would explain why that was the first one I saw to pop up on Blu-ray, or one of the first.
Oh, and it's beautiful. It's so gorgeous on Blu-ray. It was my first anime Blu-ray. I didn't say purchase because they gave it to me, but it's my first Blu-ray. It's my first anime Blu-ray. I would say that the most important and the most helpful way you can be an advocate, one, please, if you have a Facebook, join Anime Fans Against Bootlegging. There's just tons of good stuff on that site. It's run by a girl named Emily, or the web page, or whatever you call a page on Facebook, group. It's set up as a user page, though. Join that page. Her name is Emily Kringle. She works for Eagle Anime. She's very friendly, super approachable, and people just like you and me, people that are just fans that want to, like, hey, do you know anything about the Sailor Moon doll? And there's a lot of really good back and forth going on there. The most important thing is trying to make the people around you aware of it. Somebody said when I first started doing the fan subbing thing, they were like, well, what can I do if I want to get involved? I was like, tell your friends it's not cool to download stuff. And as soon as vendors, I'll say this point blank, as soon as vendors, and some of them have already started doing it, that's why some of them don't like me. As soon as kids stop buying it, they're going to stop bringing it to conventions. And the sooner conventions start cracking down on bootleg dolls and bootleg soundtracks, the sooner we won't see those guys anymore. They're only going to make money as long as we stay ignorant of the facts and as long as we don't do anything about it. And a lot of them use our ignorance of it against us. So the best thing you can do is talk to the people around you and find out as much as you can. once upon a time, I was just an anime fan like anybody else, buying from any vendor that had anything Final Fantasy or anything Ranma, or I was an anime fan for years before I was involved in the industry. And I have a friend who I argue with all the time about the Final Fantasy soundtrack, because I bought my Final Fantasy soundtrack ages ago from the store. To give you an idea of how long ago I bought it from, it was called a store called Japanimation, which is what people used to call anime a long time ago. And it was in a mall. It was in a totally legitimate mall, and I paid $35 for it, and it was 4-disc recording. It had this art. Yeah, exactly. It's got this art book like cover with music notes behind it, and it said the symphonic score, blah blah blah. And I was just sure. And since then, I've become hugely involved in this piracy fight, and I'm telling people how to spot things. And I'm also a DJ, so you can imagine the amount of music I have. So this soundtrack has slipped into the back of the abyss known as my CD collection, because, and I haven't seen it forever, and I found it, and, oh wait, I've got the wrong one. Oh, these are the legit ones. Yeah, there we go. I found it. Now, you're me. And here's the Sanmei logo. I'm like, no, I found it. See, this is the legitimate copy. And I'm staring directly into the Sanmei logo, and I'm like, crap. This is the bootleg. Because it had been years since I'd even seen that copy. And sure enough, I had the bootleg copy of it. And, it was really funny, because I'm like, wow, really, after all this time, yes, I am the proud owner of the Sanmei version. And that's the thing. A lot of people take it personally. People are like, well, I have Hong Kong bootlegs that I bought. I have Hong Kong bootlegs that I didn't know were bootlegs when I bought them. I was a fan of Sayuki before I ever worked on the show. That should tell you something. But once you know, there's a difference between not knowing, and once you know the difference and continuing down that street is something different. And that's why I try to do this as much as I can, to help out my friends that sell, to help you guys out so you never end up with a Jigglypuff stuffed with fiberglass. By the way, I love to talk about Jigglypuff, if you can tell which favorite Pokemon I have. But there's never been a Jigglypuff stuffed with fiberglass, for the record. But I hope that we actually will see an end to that, because the minute we get all of these, I'll just call them rats or schmucks, out of the dealer's room, vendors will start buying things that are expensive and truly collector's items again, and we won't have to buy them from the Square Enix store. We can get them from a Square Enix authorized vendor. But vendors have to make a living, and if they're competing with people that are selling garbage in the dealer's room, they have to sell low-end merchandise. They can't afford to sell all the Gundam kits and the Nausicaa model kits and all the crazy, awesome, cool things that exist that we don't see. And as soon as we get rid of these people, we will see better merchandise in our dealer's room. My favorite thing, and every time I ask, everyone's favorite thing at an anime convention, vendor's room. That's like always, always.
Just as a fan.
Because you gotta get in there. Yeah. You know, the sad thing is, my only time at Otakon, the minute I saw the mall that is the dealer's room, I was yanked out to a panel, and I never got into the dealer's room. And as an anime fan, I was like, stop taking me away from that.
Right? Like, that's when vendors clean out their closets. And you're like, oh my god, I haven't seen this in 15 years.
There was some amazing stuff, but they worked me so hard, I never got to go back in. So I would like to be able to get excited about the vendor's room anymore, but I just do the same thing every week now. Like, I used to get upset when I didn't get into the dealer's room, because it meant I didn't get to buy any pencil boards or any clear files or anything. But nowadays, it's the same old thing at every show, and it's because real vendors that want to sell good stuff can't make a living doing it. So I would like to see us move back to a collector's market and not so much a flea market. We deserve better than that. But thank you guys for being here to talk about something other than the stuff I always talk about. And thank you guys for even listening, because it means people still care about the industry, which I like.